Jordan Sheridan, not live, with Status Coup. If you're hearing my voice be raspy or me kind of stuffed up, it's because I am. I have been really sick the last few days. Bad cold, who knows what else. So trying to be on the mend here. Trying to be on the mend, but definitely a little sick. But wanted to come live for you anyway, even though it's not live. Unfortunately, we're still in the midst of our 90-day YouTube ban. So I'm recording this about 11 o'clock in the morning Sunday, so we could get you up to date on the news. Hopefully with another day or two of rest, I'll be back to full strength. Hope you're having a lovely weekend. This won't be like the normal marathon we do on Sundays, but close enough. Let me try to frame myself a little better. So remember, you have a checklist. Smash the like button. The more people who like this live stream, the more people that will see this live stream. So, for however many of you are watching right now, every single person needs to like the live stream. Every single person. Become a Status Coup member. Membership is how we grow. Membership is the only way we will even have a chance to cover the 2020 campaign. I'm talking about Bernie Sanders' campaign, Tulsi Gabbard's campaign, and others that we would like to politely but aggressively challenge. Right now, we're at I think like 200 and almost 270 paid monthly and annual subscribers. So, hey, can we get another 30 today? Is there 30 of you watching that aren't members for Status Coup yet that can become members as low as $5 to $10 a month? I think it's possible. And remember what membership is. Membership is how we have consistent recurring funding. You know, the key with a real independent media operation, when I say a real independent media operation, I'm talking about independent media that actually goes out, rolls up their sleeves, goes out in the trenches, and doesn't just rant about Russia, Trump, and sensational nonsense from a studio, but goes out across America and talks to actual living, breathing people. The only way to get that is to have the funding to do that. And the only way to have the funding is not to try and, get money from plutocrats and special interests and all the evil oligarchs destroying this country, but to have recurring funding from viewers. That's how we're going to grow. So we hope, if you haven't joined, join us. And we also have a new idea for membership, which I'm going to talk to Jen, Ty, and Colin about, to have kind of a nice archive of all our content with bonus content. So, for example, we'll have an easy-to-find archive of all our in-the-field interviews, but on top of the interviews that you can rewatch, add, a couple minutes each to each video of myself, Ty, Jen, whoever was in the field doing the interview, and the cameraman too, give their thoughts on the interview or provide some of the behind the scenes around that interview, things you wouldn't know that went into that interview. So I'm thinking about doing that as kind of a bonus for members, kind of a debrief, we'll call it, for in the field interviews. So you don't just get to easily find old interviews, but also get our take on what we took away from it and kind of little nuggets that happened in the field surrounding that interview. Subscribe to our follow us at Status Coup on the Twitter, at Jordan Sheridan on Twitter. Subscribe to our podcast, which is super important. Go to that link, bit.ly/Status Coup podcast. Leave 5 stars and leave a review. Our podcast is essentially all our live streams, or recorded streams now, made into podcasts, but also our interviews made into podcasts. And super important in general, but also now, join our email list, because tomorrow morning, expect an email from us to tell you our schedule coming up, because we are going to start going live, hopefully tomorrow, on not YouTube, but a different platform. So if you want to know where we're going live and what time, you got to join our email list to get that news. So email list is another way we will grow. So definitely get on that. And remember, if you haven't liked this live stream yet, I don't like you. How about that? If you're not going to like me, I don't like you. and we invite the trolls. You're welcome. So, obviously, this is recorded, so I can't interact live with you, but somebody will be in the live chat interacting with you. So, thank you for watching, and let's get to it. Before I get to the new Iowa polls, which unsurprisingly, Bernie Sanders is rising, Joe Biden falling, Kamala Harris treading water, we shall say. So before I get to that, I think it's instructive to air CNN's power rankings. You know, because CNN, they're like, campaigns are like sports to CNN and others. You know, it's like who's up, who's down. So now they have a power rankings. And I tweeted about this earlier in the week because it was kind of absurd. I mean, they had Kamala Harris first. And when you watch the reasons they had Kamala Harris first, it's kind of laughable. So I'm going to play you that if you could stomach it. I hope, it's afternoon Eastern time, so hopefully you've eaten something. So I'm going to play you this, and then we'll show the reality. Because, as I said when this came out, this is just propaganda. Here we go. CNN. Harry Enton, their wise guy, forecaster.
Crystal and Harriet just released their latest power rankings. One half of that dynamic duo, the good-looking half, joins up staff. Yeah, CNN senior politics writer and analyst Harry Flash Enton,
the unhinged half,
with the power ranking.
You know, I was going to model for Calvin Klein, but I decided to be with you two instead. Isn't that
thank
nice?
You. Wow.
Yes. So we'll start with 6 through 10. Joe Biden's not on that. I think the biggest movers here, and we'll get to Elizabeth Warren coming down 3 spots. She's one of the bigger movers. Sherrod Brown, also one of the bigger movers. I would really say that there's kind of like a line here whereby I would group 6 through 8 together, and then 9 through 10. I don't think that these two are really in the same class at this particular point or tier at this point as these 3 are.
And that's based on the polling that you've seen, based on the endorsements, based on the activist support.
Right, that's exactly right. We're looking at a slew of different factors, and while it's not necessarily a statistical model, all of these different factors are being taken into account in our rankings. I mean, like, Kirsten Gillibrand is really nowhere in the polls. Julian Castro is really nowhere in the polls. A lot of people aren't really searching their names on Google, and they haven't really pulled a lot of endorsements.
Okay, so show us the top 5.
So let's look at the top 5, 1 through 5, and this is where we see some big movement going on here. And this one in particular, which we'll be talking about, Bernie Sanders has seen a lot of movement going up. Amy Klobuchar is also a little bit up. We've seen her poll numbers actually rise a little bit despite some of those negative reports on how she treats her staff. But really the top 2 right here are pretty stable with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. If I were making groupings here, I would really probably group 1 through 4 together, and then probably 5 would be in a little bit lower down.
And of course, I imagine this would change substantially if Biden or Beto O'Rourke got in.
Correct. I mean, we would probably see Beto and or Biden go up. Of course, 95% things, while they tend to happen most frequently, I don't know what the margin of error is around that. Talking about statistical models, I don't really know if there's a statistical model that's Joe Biden specific. Joe Biden's his own man. We'll see what happens, but until he gets in, I'm not saying he's in.
And what is it about Kamala Harris? She gets a lot of attention. She gets a lot of buzz. And so why is she your number 1 in the power rankings?
She's moved up in the polls. She's had very good Google trends, which we'll see in a moment. Activist support. Seth Maskett, who's a political scientist, has asked people in the early states, these activists, who they might consider supporting, and she's very high up on those lists.
All right, funds. There's been some...
So, let me get this straight. Let me get this straight for you. So, and again, I'm not even going to show the polls yet. Because Kamala Harris is high up there in Google Trends, she is your number 1 over Bernie Sanders, who's raised, at this point, I don't even know how much he's raised, but in the first week, $10 million. Has 1 million volunteers. Leading in New Hampshire's polls. Moving up in Iowa's polls, which I'm about to show you. So, because some activists on the ground, and when CNN says activists, I don't particularly know who they consider the activist, but because some activists say they like her, and because people are searching for her on Google, that makes Kamala Harris number 1 over frankly, even Joe Biden, who is leading in the polls, in most polls, and Bernie Sanders, who's, I mean, by every objective measure, money, volunteers, social media interaction, it's not really close as far as Kamala Harris and Bernie Sanders. So let's continue with this guy, who, by the way, like reminds me of somebody out of A Bronx Tale. You know, one of these like Goomba Johnnies. You know what I'm saying? Harry Enton, good old Dirty Harry. Here we go.
Impressive fundraising hauls for some of these candidates who jumped in.
Yeah, so let's look at the story of why is Bernie Sanders up and Elizabeth Warren down. And look, Bernie Sanders has just raised a ton of money. My goodness gracious, how much Popeyes could I eat if I was able to raise as much money as
Almost
he
as
did?
much as you do now.
Perhaps so. Maybe I can bring in a little Bojangles. He raised $5.9 million in his first 24 hours and $10 million in his first 6 days. He was the only candidate so far to report raising more than $1.5 million in his first 24. Now, these are self-reports. We'll see what the FTC actually reports when it happens. But look, money is certainly correlated with future success. You need money to run a successful campaign, especially in a field that is going to have more than a dozen people running in it, to be able to outlast those other candidates. Versus Elizabeth Warren, who wants to run a sort of a people-powered campaign, a lot of small donations. She hasn't reported, and if you look at sort of the reports that are coming in, they say, you should really keep your expectations down. She might not raise a lot of money. And
when they start telling you to keep your expectations down, it's for a reason. Let me ask you about Google, because Google search trends actually has been really interesting this campaign.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. One of the first signs that Kamala Harris was going to go up in the polls was her Google search trends on the day that she announced, the day that she launched her campaign. And if you look at the different Google searches on the day that they announced their campaign and compared all of them, she is number one. Bernie Sanders, who has run before, so people aren't looking him up to learn more about him. They're just really interested in this campaign. He's been really high up at number two. Cory Booker, who, we have up in the rankings, although not number one, is also pretty popular. But Elizabeth Warren, all the way down at number 5. And again, if you're running a people-powered campaign, you want people searching your name so they can give you money, and she's right now in the middle of it.
Notice how he just totally skipped over Tulsi Gabbard. Number 4 just goes right to Elizabeth Warren. I mean, that's basically what CNN and all of them have been doing. And Tulsi Gabbard has a town hall tonight. I'm not going to cover it live because I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube again. That's how we got a ban in the first place, even though we didn't really violate their copyright. So I will have a thorough reaction video on Monday about Tulsi Gabbard. But before I get to anything, I would be derelict in my duties because I totally forgot to do this in the beginning. So sorry if it's kind of coming out of nowhere. Reminder, we are super, super, super close to $50,000 raised on our GoFundMe. Boy, you know what would help me better than Dayquil, NyQuil, and Vicks Vapor Rub? Getting rid of this cold? We can get to that big 50. That big 50. So I don't know how many people are watching right now. Again, this is recorded. Smash the like button. Even if you don't have much, $5 helps, $10 helps, $20 helps. Obviously, more helps. Man, it would be amazing if we can get to that $50,000 goal. And by the way, we are definitely right now have some balls in the air as far as getting larger funding. So getting larger funding, everything helps. So if we could show some of those entities we're reaching out to right now, hey, we've raised $50,000 already. That is an impressive number, and even more impressive and amazing. Thank you to everyone. We're almost at 1,000 individual donors, so I can't thank you guys enough. 945 donors, 48,729. Keep it coming if you can, if you like this content. And by the way, I don't want to tell you where, but I will be back in the field later this week. So I will give you more information about that. So as we've always said, we're not telling you what we're going to do. We're showing you what we're going to do. So I'll be back in the field at the end of this week with Ty and Jen. So the band is back together. We'll all be back in the field later this week, and stay tuned for where. So even more important for us to raise more money, keep it going in GoFundMe. So to be clear, CNN and Harry Enton, Mr. I Love Popeyes, Harry Enton, and, goes like this at the beginning of his little analysis. Apparently, Kamala Harris is number 1 in the power rankings. because more people are looking her up in Google search, which would make sense because she has known, really, most people don't know nationwide who Kamala Harris is. And what's funny about that is CNN obviously doesn't care about this because Google's not suppressing CNN. But Google search, I mean, it's been reported, and Status Coup has experienced it. Other independent outlets have experienced. Lee Camp has experienced it. Google search, they are deliberately suppressing down independent alternative outlets. So, is it so out of the realm of possibility that they might push down Bernie Sanders if they wanted to, Tulsi Gabbard if they wanted to, even Elizabeth Warren if they wanted to? I mean, I could do a whole marathon, maybe of 10 hours, just on Google and the CIA's connection with Google and the deep state's connection with Google. No, this ain't conspiratorial. This is fact after fact after fact is out there about Google. So I'm not saying that Kamala Harris doesn't have more search in Google than Bernie Sanders. What I am saying is that's not the basis of ranking someone number one in the Democratic field. And what this is called, you know how CNN, MSNBC, all of these networks, New York Times, Washington Post, essentially gave Donald Trump estimates from $2 billion to $3 billion, some estimates as high as $5 billion worth of free advertising and promotion. Well, what do you call this? What CNN is doing with California Senator Kamala Harris? There is no objectionable political analysis, not objectional, no objective political analyst would say Kamala Harris right now is leading the Democratic primary field. You throw out your ideology, you throw out your bias, you just look at the numbers. Honestly, I think it would be more fair, just by the polls, to say Joe Biden is leading. Whether I like Joe Biden or not, I keep it real. He is leading in a lot of the polls. Not by much, which I'm about to show you. But if they put Joe Biden number one, okay, it's debatable, but it's at least in the realm of fair. Kamala Harris, this is what Noam Chomsky, still going, 90 years strong, would love to interview him, calls manufacturing consent. They're trying to manufacture both awareness, brand ID, name recognition, and consent for Kamala Harris. Why is that? Well, is it Hillary Clinton people don't like it, but should we not remind you that Kamala Harris's top donor in her Senate campaign and her entire career in the Senate, not a long career, 2.5 years, Time Warner, or now Warner Media, CNN's parent company, which was bought by AT&T, bought Warner Media last year. She had 100, the numbers are correct, what did she have? 128,000 from Warner Media. And, Hillbutts are very fast to say, well, Jordan, you're being dishonest. Those were individuals in the companies. Yeah, do you think it was the secretaries donating to Kamala Harris from Warner Media? You think it was like the coffee runners for executives? You think it was the interns? No. Individuals, donations, when you get to that high amount, if you look through FEC filings, it's usually maxed out donations from executives and other senior leadership. It's not to say there weren't some donations from rank and file workers, but by and large, and all that money, by the way, from Warner Media, formerly Time Warner, came during her Senate campaign. It didn't come while she was in the Senate. So Warner Media, CNN's parent company, which was just bought by AT&T last year, they were pulling for Kamala Harris. So there's no connection at all. None. To the adoring coverage CNN is giving Kamala Harris, which includes giving her a number one on the power ranking based on Google searches and activists on the ground. What activists are they talking about? The cashier at a diner? No offense to cashiers at a diner. Because you want to put Kamala Harris's activists and organizers up against Bernie Sanders' 1 million volunteers? Who do you think has more among the activist crowd right now? Please. So I use this ridiculous CNN Power Rankings clip as a preview to some new information that's out there that just came out last night. And remember, if you haven't liked this stream, smash the like button. The more people that like this stream, the more people that will see this stream. We just passed 30,000 subscribers. We're almost, I think, at 31,000 subscribers. The channel is being suppressed significantly. So the more people that press like, the more people that will see. The more people that will see, the more people that subscribe. The more people that subscribe, the more revenue that comes in. The more revenue that comes in, the more we can go out in the field. And the world goes round and round. That's how it works. And by the way, I'm working for you. Might not look it, because I just Vicks vaporized myself like you wouldn't believe before I went live. But I could barely breathe. And my throat hurts and I'm sick. So I'm here for you. Be here for Status Coup. That's a great slogan, actually. I'm here for you. Be here for Status Coup. Like that live stream. And remember, I don't even know what it's now. People might have donated, but we're recording. So who knows what we're at now. But keep it coming. Oh, my God, what I would do. If we can get to that $50,000, oh, my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. We're going to do something. I'm talking like Trump. We're going to do something so great, so fabulous, so marvelous. Your head will spin. No, but seriously, once we hit 50,000, we're going to do something special for you guys. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I think I'm almost caught up. We're almost caught up as far as sending out shirts and hats. Remember, everybody, if you give $100, you get a Status Coup hat or shirt. 127 gets you a Status Coup hat and shirt. And for bigger amounts than that, we're giving out backpacks and swag bags. It's just amazing, just amazing. So now we have new polling that kind of makes the CNN power ranking more absurd than it was already. And by the way, the CNN power ranking, that segment came out before Sherrod Brown announced that he is not running. So, new Iowa poll. Biden and Sanders stand out among likely caucus goers. Of course, they left out a kind of important detail, which I'm going to tell you. The field of Democrats seeking the party's nomination for president in 2020 is one of the largest the party has seen. But for Iowa's most likely caucus attendees, two names stand above the rest: former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont. The latest CNN Des Moines Register Mediacom poll finds Biden and Sanders near even at 27% and 25% respectively, with no other candidate earning even 10% support. Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts is at 9%. Senator Kamala Harris of California, 7%, come closest. And the rest of the 20-person field tested in the poll, just former Congressman O'Rourke of Texas, Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey, and Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota are at 3% each, rising above 1%. But here's the even more important part. The numbers haven't shifted dramatically since our December poll. That's actually not true. Biden and Sanders were the top two then, though their relative position has tightened. While Biden led by 13 points in December, he and Sanders are about even now. And the flurry of energy behind O'Rourke following his narrower than expected loss to Senator Cruz in November seems to have dissipated some, with his numbers slipping 6 points in the last few months. For the rest of the field, though, things are about the same now as they were then. So, CNN kind of told you the news here, but kind of didn't say it emphatically. Joe Biden's down 5 points, and Bernie Sanders is up 6 points. Kamala Harris, she's up 2 points, from 5% in December to 7%. Bernie Sanders is up 6 points, from 19% to 25%. Joe Biden, down 32 to 27. So he's down 5 points. So let's look at each of those. And by the way, Elizabeth Warren is up. Let me see. What is Elizabeth Warren up? Warren is up only 1 point. So I think the biggest takeaway here is actually Biden down 5 points. Because Biden being down 5 points would indicate two things. Number one, Bernie Sanders, now that he is announced, and now that his message is out there, and frankly, he had a hell of a lot better debut of the 2020 campaign than he did the 2016 campaign. 2016, he leaves the Senate. He does a kind of impromptu press conference on the Senate lawn. It's not really anything special. Then, obviously, it built up. But in the beginning, it was very disorganized. He barely had any staff, whatever. Now, great speech in Brooklyn that we covered. Great speech in Chicago. Getting a little bit more personal with the audience, with his fan base. He's not a He's not a musician. With his voters, and 1 million volunteers. And you see, I think, him really doing things to de-radicalize what the media, set as a narrative that he was radical. So he's talking, no, what socialism means is human rights. I'm for human rights. People have a right to health care. People have a right to education. These shouldn't be luxuries. So I think that message is penetrating, while Joe Biden, the more he kind of sits aside, whatever he's doing, probably just trying, because he's one of these old guard politicians who thinks, he thinks how he's going to win is dominating the donor class. So he's probably just doing a lot of behind the scenes, trying to secure all the heavyweight donors away from Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Kirsten Gillibrand, all that. But the more he's away, and also the more he's away, even though he hasn't announced, the more some not so kind things are coming out about him. Ty, our photojournalist, just did a video showing him over the years with, I don't use the word racial because it's not racial, it's racist. I mean, Joe Biden was against busing African-American children in to go into white schools, or white children to go to black schools. You watch, Jen and Ty both did videos on this, but you watch some of the things he said on the Senate floor during the crime bill debate. He didn't use the term super predators, but he might as well have been talking about these super predators that, his friend Hillary Clinton said. He was talking about, I don't care what made them turn to crime. We need to put them in jail. We don't want them near I don't want them near my mother. I don't want them near, your mother. And to hell with, what their circumstances were. To hell with all that. So I think the more Bernie, who's already declared, he's out there, he's doing great on digital media, a lot of great videos, a lot of great rallies. Now he just went to Iowa for several rallies. So he's rising as more people see him and more people hear his message, whereas Joe Biden is falling because he's not out there. But also, even though he's not out there, I will give credit, I've seen CNN mildly cover some of his previous racist statements. I've seen Washington Post. Washington Post is the one that unearthed this statement he made in 1975. Let me get it up for you. Joe Biden, busing, Washington Post. Hey, if the corporate media does something right, you got to give them credit. There's nothing wrong with that. So, this is what Joe Biden said in the 1970s. I do not buy. What is this shit? Hold on. There we go. I do not buy the concept popular in the 60s, which said, we have suppressed the black man for 300 years, and the white man is now far ahead in the race for everything our society offers. In order to even the score, we must now give the black man a head start, or even hold the white man back to even the race, Biden told a Delaware-based weekly newspaper in 1975. I don't buy that. So when this went live, a lot of people were like, oh, it was 30, 40 years ago. Can you imagine if it came out that Bernie Sanders said the black man shouldn't get a head start to even the race? It doesn't matter if he said that in 1945. They would be calling for him to drop out, and frankly, they'd be calling for him to resign from the Senate, if we're keeping it real. Sorry, had my Marco Rubio moment. So I don't, honestly, yes, obviously it was a different time then, but just the sheer not so subtle racism in that tone. The black man? Bernie Sanders wasn't talking like that in the 1970s. And I assure you, Bernie Sanders wasn't talking like, oh, well, I don't believe that they deserve a head start. Or even or even hold the white man back to even the race. It's not a race if one person was basically pushed down at the beginning of the race. It's not a race if one group of people have essentially been disinvited from the race. It's not a race when one group of people have literally been trampled in the race. I don't know what other way to say it that would get across. I mean, just the racism and what he said. And by the way, it's, yes, it was 1975, but like, the Voting Rights Act passed in the 1960s. You know what I mean? Bernie Sanders in the 1960s was getting arrested, marching for civil rights. So, there's really, you could make excuses. Oh, it was a different time. He's evolved, blah, blah, blah. But has he evolved? Because this is the problem with the derangement about Trump. And remember, smash the like button. I don't know how many people are watching right now because this is recorded, but the more people that press that like button, the more people that see this stream. It's super, super important. Smash the like button. And remember, we are pushing this GoFundMe. Keep it going, baby. GoFundMe.com. We're almost at $50,000. So we'll keep popping the link into this live chat as we go. So, people are so viscerally offended, outraged, scared by the things Donald Trump says, the policies he pushes, like a Muslim ban, child separation. No, in no ways am I minimizing it. He's a terrible man, and I think he should be defeated in 2020. That's why we're critical of the Democratic Party, because I don't think you're going to defeat him with the same old, with Hillary Clinton as a man. I mean, that's what Joe Biden is. So, but racism isn't only words. Racism isn't only tweets. Racism isn't only gaffes. Racism is policy. So he said these things in the 1970s. He was on the wrong side of history. Then he pushed the crime bill, which, in fairness, Bernie Sanders voted for the crime bill. But he is on record citing that he is very worried about this potentially creating a mass incarceration system. Then he voted for it because it had provisions in there, the Violence Against Women Act, and some other good parts of the crime bill. But he was on record against and predicting. Bernie Sanders has a pattern of predicting things that ultimately happen. He predicted the Iraq War was going to be a disaster that destabilizes the Middle East and creates new terrorism. Well, what was the Iraq War? Just that. He predicted the crime bill was going to usher in an unprecedented cycle of mass incarceration for black men. Well, what ended up happening? So, Joe Biden, he said these racist things. Crime bill was racist. I mean, when you're talking about, well, we shouldn't be looking at what made them drive them to crime. We should be looking at, we got to get them off the streets. Well, yeah, that's called white privilege, looking at it that way. And the majority of people that are in jail with the crime bill, nonviolent offenders. But Joe Biden doesn't, good old Joe Biden who took the Amtrak to the Senate, what does he care? And it's very important. It's very important. Let me pull it up. Crime bill, CNBC, 2016. It's very important. I don't care what he says now. I care what does he say? What is he saying when he's not running? Well, what did Joe Biden have to say about the crime bill in 2016? Let's take a look.
3 new Nissan.
After this advertisement.
Titans, 1 award-winning lineup. This is Nissan Now.
Experience our full lineup today. Shop ChooseNissan.com.
Hurry in and experience why more people are loving Nissan now.
Another thing about how perspectives change over time. Bobby Rush, member of Congress, said the other day, I'm ashamed that I voted for the 94 crime bill. You ashamed of that bill?
Not at all. And in fact, I drafted the bill, as you remember.
I know that.
And by the way, we talk about this mostly in terms of Black Lives Matter. Black lives really do matter. But the problem is institutional racism in America. That's the overarching problem that still exists. And we should be talking about it. And you look at it, the legacy of racism in housing, jobs, and so on. So, but having said that, if you take a look at the crime bill, of the money in the crime bill, the vast majority went to reducing sentences, diverting people from going to jail for drug offenses into what I came up with the drug courts, providing for boot camps instead of sending people to prison, so you didn't relearn whatever the bad thing that got you there in the first place. Put 100,000 cops in the street. When community policing was working, neighborhoods were not only safer, but they were more harmonious. And when the reason why the cops originally opposed my 100,000 cops for this community policing piece is because it's high intensive and it means they got to get out of their cars. So they literally got out of their cars and learned who owned the local drugstore, the local neighborhood bar, whatever. And they were engaged in the neighborhood, which built confidence so that the woman, the African-American woman living in a corner alone where the drug deal's going down in front of her house knows she literally used to have your phone number as a cop. She'd call you and say, John, they're out in front of my house, but you're not giving me away, right, John? No. And it didn't. So we had enormous success. Now what's happened is we've cut the funding 80.
So I don't know what world Joe Biden is living in, because that's not what happened at all with the crime bill. And I'm a white dude, so I'm not going to talk as if I know more than African Americans that have been, grossly affected by this in a terrible way. But I interviewed folks in South Carolina during the 2016 campaign. That is not at all what the effects of the crime bill were. We put 100 cops, more cops on the street, and they had great relationships with, old ladies having drug deals in front of their house. No, this basically sent mostly young black men to jail over, cocaine or marijuana, nonviolent offenses. That's the crime bill was something to make militarized police and police as an occupying force legal. It went a long way to making that legal. And when Joe Biden tries to equivocate, the problem wasn't this bill. The problem is institutional racism. It's almost like in his mind, those are two separate things. The crime bill is institutional racism. Because is the problem those drug dealers trying to make a living? And I'm not saying all drug dealers are good people, but there's a lot of people who sell drugs to make a living and support their family. Because people like Joe Biden, people like the Clintons, people like Ronald Reagan, people like Art Laffer, people like, fill in the blank, Newt Gingrich, Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, Bob Dole, stopped representing working people and started selling all their jobs to other countries. And deindustrialization in this country is what has decimated these communities. When I interview young African-American men in Detroit, they're not out there, selling drugs because that's what they're passionate about. They're not out there selling drugs because, that's what they, as a young boy or girl dreamed of. There's no jobs. There's no opportunities. And the YMCAs, I remember when I was at the Young Turks, I interviewed two young black men from Detroit in front of a closed down YMCA community center. And they told me it's like this in every community. So this institutional racism that Joe Biden thinks is like something different from the crime bill, it's all part of institutional racism. You want to know why? Because for the most part, you have old white men of privilege who had opportunities when they were young, dictating policy and laws and what societal norms are in this country. And it's not, there's exceptions to every rule, because frankly, Bernie Sanders is an old white dude, but he's been on the right side of most of these issues. In some cases, I think he's on the wrong side. I think he's wrong on reparations. I think reparations should happen. And I think it's very simple. Yes, I think each family, I know it's hard to quantify which families were hit, disproportionately negatively affected. I don't even know if you can quantify it like that. And there's also the question of heritage. A lot of people don't know their ancestry because the records were burned and missing. And, that's a complicated thing. But I think not just black people, but Native Americans should be compensated for the land that's been stolen, for the family that's been slaughtered, for kidnapping and all the terrible things. And by the way, money doesn't, eradicate these problems. But that should happen, and I think Bernie Sanders is on the wrong side of that, if I'm telling you the truth. Now, it's fair to say, if you're talking about reparations, I think it's fair to say, well, I don't think that that's the main thing we need to do. A check might help in the short term, but that doesn't change the structural inequalities in our system. But you could do two things at once. You could compensate African Americans, indigenous people, for the sins of America, while also creating a better structural system and opportunity for those classes of people. So I think he's wrong on that. But the point is, Joe Biden doesn't just have a racism problem. Joe Biden doesn't just have a white privilege problem. Joe Biden has a generational problem because he's out of touch with the majority of people. And as I was talking about, that Kamala Harris is mostly like a branding exercise. She's been branded into like for the people. I mean, the more I read into her record as California Attorney General, her record as District Attorney in San Francisco, the shit she pulled in that campaign in the to become District Attorney of San Francisco. By the way, Li Fang of The Intercept wrote a great piece about Kamala Harris to become District Attorney in California, in San Francisco, actually took out one of the most progressive district attorneys in the country, who his MO was not, instead of jailing for drug offenses, rehabilitation and, decriminalizing drugs and things like that. And Kamala Harris used it against him as, conviction rates are way down because this guy, I forget his name, he's, being too lenient and letting murderers and drugsters get away with murder and these things. So Kamala Harris, she's for some people, not for everyone. And I think that's going to come out the more that this campaign unfolds. But I think to button this up, what this poll is really showing is what you saw in 2016, but now double. The more people hear Bernie Sanders' message, the more people find out that it's been the same message over and over, the more people see him explain and kind of de-radicalize what has been kind of made into this radical thing. That no, let me tell you what socialism means. It's just human rights. We as a civilized society should not profit off of people suffering. There should not be a point of entry to get care in America for your health. Everybody should have opportunity for education. What you do with that education is up to you, but everybody should at least have the same starting point. I don't think these have been made into radical concepts by the oligarchy, who doesn't want to sell their yachts, who doesn't want you to have more opportunity, because that means they don't have the same, because they're the ones getting the free lunch. Don't let anyone tell you, well, there's no such thing as a free lunch. The bankers have been getting a free buffet for decades. Same thing with Big Pharma. Same thing with fossil fuel industry. Same thing with Silicon Valley. Same thing with real estate. And by the way, I am going to get into this week, although I don't think Elizabeth Warren really has any chance to win at this point. I do like her plan to break up Amazon, Google, Facebook. And honestly, listen, I have my problems with Elizabeth Warren. Make no mistake about it. My choice for vice president would be Nina Turner if Bernie Sanders were to win the nomination. However, there are some things she's pushing that I would like to see Bernie adopt too. I think more progressive minds are better than one. I've always said I have problems with Elizabeth Warren on non-economic issues, but on economic issues, I think she's strong. The main thing is she is down with the military-industrial complex. She is down with spending $715 billion on endless war and endless military. She has not shown up to some of the biggest progressive fights in, I think, the 21st century. When you're talking about Bernie running, she did endorse him, talking about Standing Rock, talking about a lot of things. So that's what I think as far as Elizabeth Warren. But when she proposes good policies, I'm for it. And I think monopoly power, I think the total abuse of antitrust laws, and frankly, Google, Amazon, Facebook are a huge, huge reason that you don't have a vibrant, independent press in this country. Because basically Google, Facebook, Amazon, in addition to spying on you, in addition to selling off your private information against your consent, Facebook does it, Google does it. They're sucking up pretty much all of the advertising spending in media. So that's why you see all of these media outlets laying off people. Status Coup is doing things very, very differently. Status Coup is not trying to go and grow as an advertising model. Status Coup is trying to grow by a membership model. Statuscoup.com/join. If you have not joined yet, I hope you will consider it. At $5 a month, Status Slayer. $10 a month, a Coup de Champion. $20 a month, a Coup de Commander. Or Coup de Cavalry, $147 annually. Again, I think we're around 270 paid members. We want to get that up to 300 as soon as we can and onward. This is how we grow. This is how we have the funding to grow. This is how we don't even have to worry and change our content or our strategy based on clicks and going viral, because that is the fastest way to water down your journalism. That is the fastest way to basically offer hot air as content. We want our videos to get a lot of views. Obviously, we want our content to go viral. And we fully expect as we grow, that's going to happen, because like Bernie Sanders, we're not comparing ourselves to Bernie Sanders, but what I've seen, the more people open the door to what we're doing, the more people open the door to our in-the-field journalism, the more people open the door to our interviews with people, which I think are more thorough, more unique, and more authentic than other outlets, the more people like it, and they want to stay. The problem is they're not always seeing it due to YouTube, Facebook, and other suppression going on. But membership is how we grow. I really hope you'll consider it, as low as $5 a month or $10 a month. Obviously, we love all members equally, but how we grow is obviously higher level plans too. So for $5 you get X, for $10 you get a little more, and we're definitely going to be offering new content. I'm talking to Ty. Also, Ty, it's not a done deal yet. Is in the process of moving to New York, which is only going to help matters because if he's in New York, we will go out in the field more together here in New York and other places that it's not so expensive to travel to in the tri-state area, mid-Atlantic region, New England. But also he's going to be here so we could create even more content just for members. So once you become a member, you have all the content right there for you. We do behind-the-scenes videos for members, monthly video calls for members, and we're going to be adding some new things as we go. So statuscoup.com/join. And, of course, we're trying both at the same time, GoFundMe. Even $5 to $10 in the GoFundMe makes a big difference, and the $100 donations, the higher, really, really helps. So, and like I said in the beginning of this stream, we're hitting the road again later this week. So through the GoFundMe, we've been able to go to Flint a few times, Dallas, we've been to Chicago, we've been to Detroit, Ohio, and now we're hitting the road again. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Unlike some other outlets, when we tell you we're going to do something, we do it. We do it. We'll do it live, as Bill O'Reilly says. So, to button this up, the next time you see a power ranking from CNN saying Kamala Harris is first, or Amy Klobuchar is number 5, God, look at the polls yourself, because there's no way in hell, no objective way in hell that either of those, Kamala Harris would be number 1, Amy Klobuchar would be 5. That's ridiculous. And by the way, Tulsi Gabbard was left off that. And that's another thing. I'm totally open. You know where I stand. I support Bernie Sanders. That's not because I don't like Tulsi Gabbard, but I think Bernie Sanders has been there longer. I think he's been consistent, and I think he's better on the majority of issues. However, I do think Tulsi Gabbard is better than him and more has a better message as far as the never-ending military-industrial complex, regime change, and how all these things we want domestically, we can't separate that from all these regime change wars, all this military-industrial complex, because that's what's holding us back. All this attention and money and power that goes to the military-industrial complex is what's depriving us of focus and resources domestically. So we want to be able to cover Tulsi Gabbard. She's done stuff in Iowa. I believe she's going to be doing stuff in New Hampshire. We want to have the funds to do that too, because do you see anyone covering her? right now in the field. So we need you. And that's part of the GoFundMe, and that's part of statuscoup.com/join to become a member. We honestly, I really want you to think about it. And also, I know tax season is coming up, so you might get a return. We really, you got to think about, I'm not trying to say like media is a human right, because honestly, the days of free media are over. I mean, look what you get for free media, CNN and crap like that. But I would hope that people change their psychology a little bit, that if you want true independent media, you got to pay a little bit for it to fund us. I mean, I don't think that's such an unreasonable ask, because I need to eat, Ty needs to eat, Jen needs to eat, and we also want to hire more people. As I've said from day one, we're trying to grow this, that it's not just Jordan, that we have other reporters and other voices and other stories and other people. So that's the goal long term. So moving off of that, there's another, I think, very, very important story. And remember, press the like button if you haven't yet. That is really getting no attention. And it kind of goes into what I've covered on the road and Status Coup is covered on the road. And it's not sexy and the media doesn't care for the most part. But there's kind of like a not so quiet water crisis in America. Here's The Guardian. A hidden scandal. America's school students exposed to water tainted by toxic lead. Elevated levels of lead have been found in schools across the U.S., alarming experts who say it is particularly harmful to children. And by the way, this is a message I do not hear any presidential candidate talking about. This is a national emergency. This is the national emergency. Not a border wall, not Russian trolls. Our kids are drinking lead. They're not only drinking lead, but there's PFAS, which is a cancer-causing chemical being found in drinking water across the country. You have TTHMs, which was found in Flint, another cancer-causing chemical. I mean, there's a lot of chemicals and bacteria being found in water that are getting very, very little attention. So I'm going to read you a little bit about this. When Shakima Thomas came home from her job as a Newark, New Jersey social worker in October 2018, she found a paper wedged in her door. The notice said her water could be contaminated with lead. And by the way, this is part of, when Ty gets here, I've always wanted to cover, Newark has water problems, New York City has water problems, Massachusetts has water problems. There's water problems in a lot of places, but unfortunately, me going out by myself, I don't have the equipment that we need to really do it right as far as audio, visuals, the whole thing. So I have been waiting for Ty to cover some of these stories, but Newark is one area that I definitely want to cover. Officials first found lead in school water fountains and taps nearly 2 years earlier. Contaminations in homes was revealed by environmentalists as it became apparent Newark's corrosive water contributed to lead leaching from plumbing into people's water. Quote, my kid loves water. He loves it, so it's difficult telling him not to drink the water, said Thomas about her son Bryce. He's 4 years old and doesn't understand. In a century-long war to remove lead from Americans' daily lives, water remains the outlier, overlooked by some of the same public health experts and scientists who battled to get heavy metals out of food, paint, and gasoline. Unfortunately, it's a problem that was swept under the rug for many years, even though many experts were well aware there was an excess of lead in their tap water, said Eric Olson, a senior director of advocacy at the Natural Resources Defense Council, about lead in schools in particular. Howard Kessler, a retired doctor based in Tallahassee, Florida, who is part of Physicians for Social Responsibility, said, parents didn't know about this issue, but it's bubbling up now and many of them are concerned. Lead is a neurotoxin. It drops IQ scores. It's linked to aberrant behavior and violence. The concern is that while we are not taking much action, children are being damaged on a generational level. We are supposed to provide them with a safe environment, not poison them. We are going to spend millions of dollars on security guards to protect students from gun violence, but we aren't properly protecting their brain health from lead and water. And by the way, it's not just their brain health. Lead stunts your bone development, your muscles. I mean, pretty much every system you could think of. Your nervous system, your lymph system, endocrine system. I mean, lead wreaks havoc on just about every system within your body. Lead is not an issue specific to New Jersey. Elevated lead levels have been found in schools across the U.S. in the wake of the toxic water scandal that has roiled Flint. The widespread contamination has alarmed experts who point out that lead, linked to developmental and behavioral problems, is particularly harmful to children. High levels of lead exposure can lead to anemia, damaged hearing and speech, and headaches. Low levels can impair a child's IQ, academic achievement, and ability to pay attention. There are more insidious effects researchers are still working to document. U.S. studies have shown lead-exposed children are more likely to be aggressive, leading to bullying, truancy, and even jail. Lead, not just in water, continues to ravage many U.S. cities. In Cleveland, Ohio, some neighborhoods struggle with lead exposure, impacting up to 25% of children. And, if you recall, Status Coup was the only national media at Cleveland's City Hall during a press conference to announce that 92 children were found with high lead levels in 1 month in Cleveland since the beginning of 2019. 92 children. They had that press conference on the same day Trump declared a fake national emergency. We were the only national media there. Only other person I saw was somebody from the Cleveland Plain Dealer. That was it. So, nearly 100 children, high lead levels in a month. You know. Why cover that? This is why Status Coup exists. Our national corporate media doesn't give a wild fuck about children, about working people, about the proletariat, about public health, about public safety, about integrity, about ethics. Ooh, this is fun. I could go on. I mean, what is more important? I don't want to be like, children are our future. But what is more important than children? What is more important? Not just because, parents love your children. Aunts and uncles love your children. Grandparents love your children. But this is our future. This is our future economy. These are our future teachers. These are our future police officers, our future firefighters, our future everything. So if children from Cleveland to Flint to Milwaukee to Baltimore to Pittsburgh to, there's so many other places. Now Utah, Ohio has had water problems, Massachusetts, Newark. By the way, there's not nationwide testing going on in these cities. There's not. Cleveland, which found 92 children had high lead levels in a month, over 50% of the children have not been tested. And guess what? They're majority black. Cleveland is a 53% African-American city. Flint, overwhelmingly African-American. Well, not overwhelmingly, but 70%? 57%? Detroit has a lead problem. Overwhelmingly African-American. Baltimore, the list goes on. But it's also coming to white areas, too. Lead does not discriminate because in wealthier areas, they change the plumbing, they change the pipes, they do lead abatement in the homes to get rid of that old lead-based paint. But in Cleveland, and places like it, you have a lot of old housing stock. So they're not in such a rush. Not in such a rush to fix those things there. This is kind of that institutional racism Joe Biden was talking about. Extensive evidence of lead in school water has been found across America. More than half the public schools in Atlanta were found to have high levels of lead, in some cases 15 times above the federal limit for water systems. Schools in Baltimore, Portland, and Chicago were all found to have significant amounts of lead in drinking water. The most startling problems arose in Detroit, where the school district shut off water in all 106 school buildings last year. A total of 57 Detroit schools tested positive for lead, copper, or both. Students were told to switch to bottled water. The city is now looking to spend $2 million on new filters and water fountains. This is another thing. They just toss filters at the problems. They need to redo the pipes. Filters don't fix the problem. Filters go bad. Filters are flimsy. Filters don't even protect against bacteria. And filters do not protect if lead is above a certain level. Trust me, the residents of Flint could give you a master's course on the problems with these filters that they hand out. Communities outside major urban areas haven't escaped the taint of lead. 24 schools and daycare centers in Maine were found to have high levels of lead, while authorities in Vermont have vowed to test more of its schools after a report found 16 of its schools has lead contamination. For residents of Newark, the water crisis means a burden they can barely bear. It took Thomas, who relies on public transportation, almost 2 weeks to get a water filter after a computer erroneously showed she'd already received one. Quote, "It's really unfair and I think it's sad," said Thomas. "Kids have to go to school with the water being toxic, and they have to come home and the water is toxic. I just think it's poor leadership." Now Newark's teachers are leading the charge to get the heavy metal out of drinking water, suing the city and notifying people like Thomas where to pick up water filters. For Yvette Jordan, one of the named plaintiffs in a lawsuit against the city of Newark and a public school history teacher, it meant instructing her students they could no longer drink from fountains and why they needed to walk across campus cup in hand to quench their thirst. Quote, "There wasn't the public outcry because people were so overloaded with the vicissitudes of life." I've never heard that word. Vicissitudes of life, she said. The reaction was, quote, "I got to worry about water too? Are you kidding me?" When Thomas found the notice stuffed in her door jamb, she was likely unaware of 1988 law, the Lead Contamination and Control Act, signed by Ronald Reagan nearly 30 years to the day before she found that slip of paper, was meant to prevent this. In the U.S., lead was nearly phased out of gasoline and paint by the mid-1980s. This alone was a huge public health victory, years in the making, and which showed nearly immediate benefits. The LCCA was meant to further these public health laws by requiring schools and daycares to test for lead in water. Pioneering researchers such as Herbert Needleman, whose work was inspired by the playground his North Philadelphia clinic overlooked, were able to show low-level lead exposure in children caused permanent brain damage, behavioral problems, and developmental delays. Scientists turned advocates such as MacArthur Foundation Genius Award winner Ellen Silbergeld used this research on her own to catalyze politicians to amend lead-related policy. Quote, "When we took lead out of gasoline, the blood lead of Americans went down by 80%. Said Silbergeld about the blood tests typically used to measure lead circulating in the body. At the time, she was working for the Environmental Defense Fund with a team of researchers and advocates. It turned out the contribution from lead in gasoline was huge and much bigger than many of us thought." Silbergeld, who also worked to remove human toxins such as mercury and dioxins from the environment, said, "In my life, working on environmental problems, I've never seen anything like it. Within 3 months, you saw the results. That's astounding." After removing lead from the welds of tin cans, gasoline, and paint, it was almost like, "Hey, we've solved this," she said. "We were really overlooking the potential for lead in drinking water." And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's a really, really great article. Good job by The Guardian. I will put this link in the super chat, which I didn't even mention. This is a super chat, so if you're feeling super, you could contribute in the super chat, but we do kindly prefer GoFundMe, because YouTube, in addition to wrongly banning us for 90 days, because CNN told them to, which I've already explained, CNN filed a copyright strike against us, even though we didn't abandon copyright or abuse copyright. But anyway, CNN, says jump, YouTube and others say how high, and we, the independent media, have to suffer and be suppressed. So keep it coming into GoFundMe if you can. But this also goes to Flint, and here's a little update on Flint. Although the quality of water in Flint is improving, not true, residents are still concerned about it. Water distribution sites are continuing. For the last several Saturdays, there's been free water distribution at Prince of Peace Church. Saturday's event was also sponsored by the Pack Your Back group. Organizers are urging families who need clean water to attend these distributions. Flint needs help, and we want to continue to help our residents here, and the sooner the better. We're going on 5 years, and 5 years is way too long. Next Saturday will be the last time water is scheduled to be distributed at the church. Well, got to call it out. New Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who is a Democrat, she said she was going to reestablish the free water pods, which were closed down by Governor Rick Snyder, who frankly should be in jail. She said she was going to reestablish it. She's been in office now full 2 months. I don't know what's happening with that. So I'm going to reach out to her office this week. But key here. It is March 10th. April 25th is 5 years since Flint had clean water. I'm silent because I want that to sink in. It's been 5 years since a United States city has had access to clean water. And as you know, both when I was at the Young Turks and now at Status Coup, I've been to Flint 13 times. I would not tell you that they're lying unless I had enough evidence and I had enough research and I had enough interviews and I had enough observation to tell you they are lying. The levels might be improving, but we don't know if the levels are under the allowable limit that the EPA sets. And by the way, the EPA's allowable limit for lead is based not on public health, but based on a measure of corrosion control. In November, we broke, Jen and I, Status Coup, broke a massive story showing that the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, the same Michigan Department of Environmental Quality that caused the water crisis in the first place by failing to add the proper corrosion control chemicals to the Flint River when the city was switched from the Detroit water system to the Flint River, they cooked the data. If you never read the story, it was a huge story we broke. We were supposed to break it for Newsweek, but they were cowards and they backed out at the last minute, so we self-published. Jen and I combined knocked on 450 doors last summer and this most recent fall. We found that the state of Michigan, the environmental agency, literally were both going into residents' homes who were on the official state testing program and flushing their water before collecting the samples. So turning on the tap, letting it run, in some cases for 30 seconds to a minute, in some cases for several minutes, in some cases for 10 to 15 minutes. They were letting the water run and then putting the sample bottle under, which is illegal. It is against the EPA's lead and copper rule. It artificially lowers the levels, so you get a level that is under the 15 parts per billion that the EPA mandates. We had dozens of residents recount that this occurred in their homes, both state officials going in and doing it, and in other cases, state officials not doing it themselves, but verbally telling the residents, flush your water, run your water before you take the testing. This is one of the biggest environmental scandals, probably of the 21st century. They literally cooked the testing and the data to get lower levels. This has not been even argued. The state of Michigan didn't even argue our findings because they can't. It's true. We have paperwork to back it up. We have overwhelming number of interviews with residents where this happened. Their response to us was, the residents are confused. We met in person. I never revealed it, but I'm going to reveal it now. We met in person. I won't reveal who, but we met in person with one of the top 5 officials in the state of Michigan in when was it? February. In Michigan. We had a meeting with that individual and that person's team. Haven't heard back from, but they were looking into it. Our findings, so they said. So we have a corporate media that does not cover this issue. We have a corporate media that even though Congressman Ro Khanna came out, there needs to be an investigation. Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard came out. There needs to be an investigation based on what Status Coup found. Susan Sarandon, Alyssa Milano, Sean King. The list goes on of people that came out on this story. Nothing has happened. You want to know why? Because our politicians do not care. Do not care about the people of Flint. They care when it's in vogue to care. They care, and the pundits care when, like, a comedian at the White House Correspondents' Dinner says, at the end of her speech, Flint has no clean water. And then everybody's Flint warriors on Twitter for 5 minutes, and then they go back to Trump's tweets. We care. Status Coup cares. We've been consistent. If I could go to Flint every week, I'd go to Flint every week. Because this isn't only about water. Flint is not only about the water. These other cities aren't about the water. This is about, do we live in a country where where our politicians represent the people and protect the people? Or do we live in a country where the politicians poison the people and then leave them to die? Because that's what's happening in Flint. And you will see that when our documentary comes out. And right now we're shooting to release that documentary in April for that 5-year anniversary. You will see what we're talking about. And that's why it's so important. And I'm not trying to exploit my anger here or my passion. That's why it's super important that we continue to raise the money. Because raising money is how we are going to do this. Raising money is how we're going to break more stories. And I'm keeping it real. I'm keeping it real. Straight up, I've sent this story to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's people 4 or 5 times. She has not said a word about it. I'm keeping it real. Same thing with Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, who represents Detroit. Same thing with Congressman Elijah Cummings, who is the chairman of the Oversight Committee. I can't get any of these congresspeople to tweet it, to say anything, to investigate it, and you have to wonder, what is the problem? Again, this report, and I'll put it in the live chat if you never read it, has never been challenged. It's never been challenged. But I can't get Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, who for the most part, I love her policies. I think she's accomplished great things so far. Not knocking her policies, but it seems kind of odd that, you want to fight for, frontline communities, as she says. You want to fight for people in Flint and Standing Rock and other places, and I've heard her talk about it. Yet you don't want to bring attention to the fact that literally a whole city was poisoned, and now they've been manipulated and the data has been manipulated. That's called a cover-up. This is a cover-up. They manipulated the data. So I don't know what the problem is. I don't know why I can't get, I'm not asking for like retweets for my health or my ego. Right now, if Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says anything, it becomes national news. That's why I was trying to get her to tweet it or retweeted it. So I'm keeping it real. I don't know what the problem is. I sent this in November to them, and I followed up, and so I don't know if it's an issue with me. If it is, that's kind of sad. That is very sad that the people of Flint can't get one of the most high-profile progressive champions in America to call out that the testing was manipulated. The data has been manipulated. Because at the core of why this story is so important, because the data was manipulated, because the testing was manipulated, there is no way to know what the actual current lead levels in Flint are. The majority of the pipes have not been changed yet. The majority of the pipes have not been changed. And even when all the service lines are changed, they're not touching the interior plumbing of people's homes, which was also severely damaged from that toxic lead water. So Jesus can bless the water. It could be brand new pipes coming into that home, blessed by Jesus. But if you still have corroded, damaged pipes inside the home, you still have potential problems. And once you see our documentary, and we're going to start teasing out more clips, you're going to understand how big of a story this is. So that's my 2 cents. And I'll put the links to all of this in the live chat here. So, folks, couple public service announcements. Number one, we will, beginning this week, be going live again. Not on YouTube because we have a ban. It's so important that you join for our email list, because tomorrow we're going to send out an email telling you where we'll be live, what time. It'll be 5 o'clock Eastern time. Where we'll be live. We just had to purchase another fucking system because YouTube banned us. So it cost us $900, which was money I really didn't want to spend, but you have to because going live is a big part of what we do. So if we can't go live, that's a problem. So we will be live starting this week. Tomorrow you'll get an email. So if you're not on our email list, you won't know where we're going live. It's going right out to our email list. So go to statuscoup.com right now. You'll get a pop-up. Join our email list if you haven't. Super important. We don't flood you with emails. Maybe we send 1 or 2 a week. When we're in the field, we send more emails because we want you to know what we're doing that day, when we'll be live, all those good things. But in general, we're like 1 or 2 emails a week. Also, I really want to ask you, we're right now in like the calm before the storm, right? So this is not the full campaign yet. Bernie and Tulsi, they're going here and there to Iowa, to New Hampshire, but they're not like out doing rallies 5-7 times a week. But that's going to come sooner than later. And I'm telling you straight up, Status Coup, as currently constituted, does not have the funding to do that. We just don't. And part of that is something right we're doing. part of that is because we're doing something right. If I wanted to just say, screw it, we need to cover the campaign, let's try to reach out to Democratic Party donors or Republican Party donors or special interests to get like $200,000, I could do that. And we could probably get it because our numbers are pretty decent for a startup media company. Reminder, we're 1 year old and we're going to be doing our 1 year party at the end of March. We're about to hit like 1 year on this channel. So, but I'm not willing to do that. We're not willing to do that. We're not willing to take money from the very people that have made this country an oligarchy and a new gilded age. So we want to grow organically. We want to grow through viewers. And it's not easy to do that in a year. A presidential campaign, to cover it, a full campaign, you're talking, even if you're being conservative with the spending, you're talking $75,000 to $100,000. And that's being conservative. It's probably more than that. And an average trip for Ty and I right now, if you're spending conservatively between hotels, rent-a-cars, flights, food, you're talking $2,000 to $3,000. So you put that out there for going across the country, covering campaigns, debates, conventions. This is a lot of money. So it's really up to you. And I understand that a lot of you can't support financially because of your situation. And if that's the case, I understand, and I don't want to make your situation harder. But I just want you to know that if we're not at these rallies, if we're not covering this, it's not for a lack of want. It's not for a want of will. It's for a lack of just reality funding. And it is what it is. We've had remarkable, for what we've been able to, I'm so proud, not just of, I'm just proud of what we've accomplished in a year. I mean, we're at 30,000, past 30,000 subscribers, and we've been suppressed at every turn. The majority of my former viewers at the Young Turks, I would guess, don't even know this channel exists because they don't see it on YouTube. They don't see it in subscriber feeds. They don't see it in recommended. Facebook, don't even get me started. The fact that we're at almost 300 paid subscribers through our website, and we just launched that paid subscriber through our website in November. And when you combine our patrons, who we also love, we're almost at 600. So the only way for us to do this, not just to cover rallies, not just to cover campaigns, but to cover real stories and real people, is to grow organically. And frankly, the reason I've been sick for the last few days is because I think working 7 days a week and burning myself from sunrise to sunset, because I'm doing the publishing of the videos, I'm doing the social media, I'm doing the reaching out to try and get larger funding, I'm doing a lot of logistical things you have no idea about and I don't want to bore you with. But it burns you out after a while. So I thank you for everything. I mean, hopefully it's more because I'm recording this, so hopefully it's gone up. But as I'm looking at it now, 945 donations in a year. Since September, so 6 months. To hit 50,000, and it's not like we've had a celebrity drop like 20,000 in there. Our highest donation was from a viewer, 5,000, which to this day I can't even believe somebody did that, and I thank you. That person didn't want to be named, but I will always thank that person. But our goal is 70,000. I think if we hit 70,000, it's not going to be able to cover the full campaign, but it will get us closer to covering a good chunk. And as we go and as we're out there, I think we'll grow quicker. I mean, if I'm keeping it real, the fastest growth we've had as far as signups for membership was the day I interviewed Tulsi Gabbard. We had a lot of signups, and Bernie Sanders rally. So as a business model, when we're out there doing it, we have more people that want to sign up and contribute per month or annually. So we just need the funding to get out there and do it. So I thank you, honestly, from the bottom of my heart. It was nice to do this because I went a few days not going live, even though this isn't live. I hope you will debunk any of your people in your circle saying like, oh, Kamala Harris is leading the pack. I think I've explained that that's propaganda today. I hope if you have children, you will start asking their principals and their teachers, has the water been tested in this school? If so, what's been the results? How old are the pipes underneath the ground? And the corporate media ain't going to investigate it for you. So you need to investigate it to make sure your kids are not drinking lead or other things. Because, by the way, it's not just happening in Detroit. It's not just happening in Flint. It's happening across this country. And that's one of the stories I want to cover when we have the funding. I've always wanted to do kind of a water wars tour and go to the cities most affected to really get attention on this issue. So thank you for watching. Remember, sign up for our email list because we're going to announce tomorrow where we'll be live going forward until our YouTube ban is up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And remember, statuscoup.com/join. Become a member as low as $5 to $10 a month. I'm going to upload a members video right after this. Thank you for watching. Peace.